Okay, so what I want to talk about now is actually making copies versus instances. One of the creepiest things a friend of mine ever explained to me was when he ended up in a situation where he couldn't drive down the street because there was a bunch of people talking in a car, and he got impatient and he honked his horn. And the smallest guy from the group came over to him and said, "You got a problem?" And my friend, not knowing what he had walked into, mouthed off to the young guy and basically threatened him because he thought he's a small guy. And all of a sudden he heard from the group in front, "Whatever you do to one of us, you do to all of us." And then he heard it from a group to his left. And then he heard it was summertime from a group behind him. And he didn't realize it until later, but he had walked into a gang activity. And so he had made a mistake where they were letting him know, whatever you do to one of us, you've done to all of us. And we're going to, you can't just pick on the little guy. It was very creepy the way he told that story. This is called an instance, digitally speaking. And if you take one and you add a bend modifier, the other one bends because they're instances. That's what we did with Chris's arms. Copy would be that whatever you do to the one is just to the one, the other one stays the same. Okay? And the third one is a reference. A reference means that up to a certain point, I'm going to inherit it, but then there's going to be something that's a little bit different. So it's like an evolved Pokemon. So this is like a photocopy. That's how I think of these three different things. So if I go into a 3dsMAX scene now, and I look at this arm and this arm, they are instances of each other. Whatever I do to one, I do to the other. These were copies. Whatever I do to one doesn't affect the other. Now, there are some properties that don't get changed, such as the position and the scaling and the rotation, that are not inherited when it's an instance. That's why the arm can be in a different location, a different scaling, so that won't affect it. So what if you want to make a copy of your SnowPerson? Not as hard as you might think. First thing I'm going to point out is that I'm not worried about what the colors are here. I'm fine with them the way they are. It might be that you wanted to solidify your color schemes before you move forward with this. What I'm going to do now is at the top, I'm going to use this selection. It's called a marquee select. And I'm going to select this to get everything that's in my guy right here. Okay, so select. I'm going to grab the whole scene. So you'll notice over here as well, I've got them all selected. I got to figure out how to invert my camera so it works more to my looking here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a group. So if you click on group, you can see I can group these objects, and I can give it a name. Now with it selected, I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to, hold down Alt, Shift, pardon me, Shift and drag. Now I've made a copy of them. Now if it's a copy, they're going to be, whatever I do to one is going to be different. So this is going to be a copy on this side. Let's call them copy of SnowPerson. I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to make another copy. This one's going to be an instance. And the last one I'm going to make is going to be by the instance. I'm going to put him in front of him. It's going to be a reference. So let me get to a slightly different scene here. Actually, I'll put him behind. Put him over here, and he's going to be a reference. And what I've got is I've got an illustration here where if I change something on the copy, it doesn't change anything else. So I'm going to actually change the copy here in a kind of a weird way. I'm going to go to the modifiers. I'm going to add something called Turbo Smooth. That didn't do it enough. I'm not going to use Turbo Smooth. I'm going to delete that from there. Let me see what I could use. It would be, I'm going to use something called FFD. And with the FFD, I can actually really change this around quite a bit. I can grab a control point and I can start to, maybe I can't. I may have needed to, no, I won't be able to do it. You have to see here. FFD, control points, grab one. So what I'm doing to him doesn't affect anybody else. He's a copy. So I can mangle him up all kinds of ways, and he doesn't have any effect on the others. He's just a weird-looking guy that I've messed with. But these two are instances. So now here's an instance where I've locked my selection, I think. I need to toggle that off. Come back off of this. Sorry, I'm having trouble with what I'm doing right here. I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure why it won't let me deselect this. This is a crash and burn as far as the demo goes because I can't figure out what I did wrong. Give me a minute to pause my demo here. All right, so I got past the selection thing by just deleting the modifier I had on the copy. The point was the copy doesn't change the instances. All right, so now I've got this one here, and whatever I change to him, he's an instance, will change the other two. So it's important to understand that. Let's see, what can I do that might make it more apparent? I'll add another taper. And I'm just going to watch what happens now. As I taper one of them, the other ones taper. See that? Because they're instances. Some of these end up looking really, really weird. And the whole point here is that you can add a taper and it will affect the other ones. The guy that's different is the reference. So if I go to the reference now and I change him, he's still going to inherit everything from the other instances, but I can add something else to him. I can add, for example, I'm going to add a twist, which would be a weird thing to do to a SnowPerson. And I'm going to twist my SnowPerson around. Now, the twist is really messing with him. But he's also got all of the properties inherited from this taper. And if I turn this off, it turns it off all of them. So the part of it is inherited up to a certain point, and then there's a part that's custom. The way to tell what's custom is when you click on a reference, you'll notice that there'll be a little gray bar here that shows you what's different from a copy. At least that used to be. It looks like they took that away. All right, so I've kept track of it. So now I've got multiple characters in my scene. I've grouped and I've put them together. Not worried about the colors at all. But I would like to see, actually I don't like the modifier I put on this guy. I'm going to turn the taper off on all of them. There we go. I'm happier with this. I can scale these guys down so I can make it so that there's one that's smaller. I can make one of them bigger. I can rearrange them so that they're in a scene so it looks like I got, Daddy Snowman and Mama Snowman and Baby Snowman. So you can create your whole family here. You can rotate them into different positions. So now that you got your SnowPerson set up, yeah. I can show you how to put the name on the screen really quickly. All right, so let me stop the demo that I had going on there. It's like 3 steps. You're going to create a text object and click to add it in the scene, but you got to make sure you put your name in there. I'll do it now in this demo here. So I'm going to go to the Create panel where you've got the plus key. Now, instead of doing a standard primitive here, I'm going to change this from a standard primitive to the one over next to it that's called Shapes. I'm going to grab something called Text. So I'm down here and I'm grabbing Text. And where it says Max Text, I want you to put your name in. Then I click in the scene and it puts my name in there. But it's not going to show up very well. So what I want to do is add a modifier, which we talked about earlier. And I'm going to add something called Extrude. Extrude is going to add some depth to it. And then I can rotate it in the scene. And I've got my work showing. Tomorrow I'll show you how to put your logo in the scene through a video, because it's an asynchronous day. And we'll throw a background in here, and you'll have some materials that we'll throw in on Thursday. So it looks icy or metallic or whatever you'd like. So put your name in there and show me a screen of how far you've gotten today. Turn that in, or a comment if you're having trouble. And you can add additional modifiers if you want to. So there you go. Turn in something, give me a comment, or give me that. So looks like I apparently stopped recording this, but luckily I made some YouTube videos that will supplement this. So check the YouTube page for the updates. Got some other updates there. Make sure for the day you get your work turned in. Work's going to be what your scene looks like to this point. Let's take a look at the calendar here. The thing that's due today would be to add your name to the scene. I just showed you how to do that. I also showed you how to use modifiers. If you don't have a scene that you can attach, give me a comment on what you're doing instead. Didn't mean to go this long, guys. I hope it was interesting and useful. I'm going to stop the demo here.